Part 30.2. Surah Ar-Rum. The Romans Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome back to Sufi Essence with Hammad Syed. We transition now from the bold historical assertion of the divine prophecy concerning the Romans to a metaphysical examination of human perception and spiritual heedlessness. Having established the absolute certainty of Allah's word through an impossible geopolitical prediction, Surah Ar-Rum now turns its illuminating gaze upon the human heart itself, asking, when the face of such overwhelming evidence, do the majority of people fail to grasp the ultimate truth? This section, comprising verses 6 through 10, draws a striking, almost poignant contrast between the unshakable promise of the Creator and the fragile, fleeting knowledge of creation. It dissects the psychological and spiritual mechanisms of disbelief, exposing the core reason for rejection, a profound, willful heedlessness, Ghaflah, rooted in an over-attachment to the mere outer appearance jeer of this transitory world. The verses serve as an essential lesson for every aspirant of ilm. True knowledge is not accumulating facts about the world, but penetrating the superficial layer of reality to perceive the underlying eternal hand of Allah in all affairs. This profound movement in the surah elevates the discourse from a mere confirmation of prophecy to a timeless psychological analysis of the struggle between the soul's yearning for truth and the seductive distractions of the ephemeral realm. The unfailing promise and the veil of worldly perception, Kanzel Aman. Quran, Surah Ar-Rum, the Romans chapter 30 verse 6. The promise of Allah. Allah fails not in his promise, but most men know not. This verse functions as the final seal upon the incredible prophecy delivered in the preceding verses. The assertion of the Roman victory was not a mere guess or an educated political forecast. It was the promise of Allah wada. The phrase is a definitive theological principle, a foundational pillar of Tawhid that confirms the absolute veracity, reliability, and immutable nature of the divine word. The assurance that Allah fails not in his promise, la yukhlifu, Allahu wa'dahu, is the very definition of certainty for the believer. It elevates every divine statement, whether a historical prediction, a moral command, or an eschatological warning, from a possibility to an absolute certainty. For the early Muslims in Mecca, surrounded by doubt and suffering under severe persecution, this was the ultimate source of psychological strength. It meant that every trial, every hardship, and every prophecy of future triumph was not contingent upon their own weak resources or the whims of their enemies, but secured by the unbreakable, perpetual guarantee of the Almighty. However, the verse pivots to a heartbreaking and sobering observation, but most men know not. This knowing is not a deficiency of informational knowledge, but a profound lack of spiritual realization ilm. It refers to the inability or refusal of the majority to perceive the cosmic reality that Allah's word is the only absolute certainty in existence. Their lack of knowledge means they fail to grasp the intrinsic nature of the Creator, whose attributes of power, truth, and immutability make the failure of a promise an absolute impossibility. This blindness stems from a profound spiritual ailment, the failure to reflect deeply on the very signs that point to the divine. This observation sets the stage for the next verse, which will expose the very root of this catastrophic ignorance and spiritual deficiency. The verse teaches that a true believer is one whose heart is utterly settled in the reality of Allah's promises. While the majority remain trapped in the fluctuating, unpredictable theater of human events, mistaking the shadow for the substance due to their profound internal lack of ilm. Kanzel Aman, Quran, Surah Ar-Rum, the Romans. Chapter 30, verse 7. They know only the outer appearance of the life of the world, and they are heedless of the hereafter. This verse provides the definitive diagnosis for the spiritual blindness mentioned in the preceding verse. The reason most men know not is because they know only the outer appearance of the life of the world. This concept of the hereafter appearance or external form is critical to the Sufi perspective and the understanding of true ill. It refers to a knowledge that is confined strictly to the sensory, the empirical, and the material, the surface layer of existence. They are experts in trade, architecture, politics, and technology, the mechanisms of the worldly life, but their knowledge is utterly superficial, lacking depth and meaning. They can describe the leaf, but not the force that moves the sap. They can build the palace, but not understand the fleeting nature of its permanence. They are masters of the form, but ignorers of the meaning. The fatal consequence of this narrow, clearest focus is immediate and profound, and they are heedless of the hereafter. Wahamani al-Kakirati hum Gabilan. Heedlessness, Ghaflah, is the spiritual disease that clouds the kalb, the spiritual heart, causing it to forget its origin, its purpose, and its final destination. By focusing exclusively on the fleeting gains and losses of the dunya, this world, they become existentially oblivious to the permanent reality of the Akira, the hereafter. This lack of remembrance of the eternal destination is what prevents them from properly evaluating the temporary world. They invest their entire being in that which will surely perish, and are utterly detached from the only reality that is enduring. The verse provides a master lesson. The knowledge of the outer world is not an evil in itself, but the spiritual disaster lies in making this superficial knowledge the sole object of one's focus, thereby allowing it to veil the heart from the profound, enduring truth of the divine plan and the inevitable accounting of the Day of Judgment. This state of Ghaflah is the spiritual opposite of yaqeen, certainty, and is the root cause of all misguided actions and spiritual failures. Kanza, Aman, Quran, Surah Ar-Rum, the Romans, chapter 30, verse 8. Do they not reflect upon their own inner beings? Allah did not create the heavens and the earth and all that is between them, except with truth and for a fixed term. And indeed, many people are disbelievers in the meeting with their Lord. Having diagnosed the problem of heedlessness, Allah now presents the universal remedy. Reflection Tofakar. The rhetorical question, do they not reflect upon their own inner beings? La, lam yatafakka, ifan fusiyim, directs the human being away from the distractions of the material world and towards the most immediate, accessible, and profound sign, the self. The human naf's sole inner being is a microcosm of the entire universe, containing the signs of creation, purpose, limitation, and ultimate dependency on the Creator. Deep contemplation on one's own miraculous existence, the orderly function of the body, the complexity of the mind, the fleeting nature of life, is the starting point for true ilm. If one cannot understand the mystery of their own existence, how can they grasp the universe? This internal reflection is immediately linked to the macrocosm. Allah did not create the heavens and the earth and all that is between them except with truth and for a fixed term. The creation is neither arbitrary nor eternal. It is established with truth by al-QQ, meaning it is founded upon an inherent, perfect, and meaningful reality, the truth of Tawhid and divine justice. Furthermore, it is created for a fixed term, wa ajalan musam, asserting the universe's inherent finitude and its inevitable end. This is a profound call to metaphysical sobriety. Everything you see, however vast and permanent it may seem, the stars, the mountains, the empires is operating on a divinely prescribed timer. Nothing is eternal, except the Creator. The knowledge of the universe's limited duration should immediately destroy the illusion of security and permanence that fuels worldly attachment. Yet the verse concludes, sadly confirming the spiritual tragedy, and indeed, many people are disbelievers in the meeting with their Lord. Their failure, too. Reflect on their own being and the finite nature of the cosmos results in the ultimate form of heedlessness, the outright denial of the resurrection and the Day of Judgment. This denial is not a lack of evidence, but a willful rejection of the evidence, staring back at them from the mirror of their own existence and the ordered demise of the universe. Kanzel Aman, Quran, Surah Ar-Rum, the Romans, chapter 30, verse 9. Have they not traveled in the land, and seen how was the end of those before them? They were superior to them in strength, and they tilled the earth and populated it in greater numbers than these have done. And their messengers came to them with clear proofs. So Allah was not such that He wronged them, but they used to wrong themselves. The imperative for reflection moves from the internal infusahim, the self, to the external alarg, the earth. If internal contemplation on the self fails to awaken the heart, then the external evidence of history should provide the necessary shock. Have they not traveled in the land, and seen how was the end of those before them? This is an appeal to empirical, historical observation, demanding that they look at the monumental ruins and scattered remnants of past civilizations. The archaeological evidence scattered across the land, the majestic yet desolate cities of the vanished is, presented as a living, breathing commentary on the temporary nature of human power. These previous nations were formidable. They were superior to them in strength, and they tilled the earth and populated it in greater numbers than these have done. The Makkans and Quraysh, who boasted of their own power and sophistication, are shown to be dwarfs compared to the ancient peoples like the Ad, the Thamd, or the people of Pharaoh. These civilizations possess superior material power, technological skill in tilling the earth's agriculture and construction, and massive numerical superiority. Their strength was far greater, their wealth far grander. Yet despite their material dominance, their end was total destruction. Why? Because their messengers came to them with clear proofs, and they chose to deny them. This provides the profound conclusion of the historical inquiry. Their destruction was not an arbitrary act of divine malice. So Allah was not such that He wronged them. But they used to wrong themselves. This establishes the eternal principle of divine justice. Allah does not capriciously inflict punishment. The demise of nations is an act of self-destruction, the natural and inevitable consequence of their choice to reject truth. Ignore the clear proofs presented by the prophets, peace be upon them, and oppress themselves by associating partners with the one who created them and sustains them. The historical ruins are therefore not just a travelogue. They are a lecture in divine justice and a terrifying premonition of the fate awaiting the heedless Makkans. Kanzel, Iman, Quran, Surah Ar-Rum, the Romans. Chapter 30, verse 10. Then the end of those who committed evil was that they denied the signs of Allah and used to mock them. This final verse of the section provides the spiritual and ethical summary of all the preceding historical lessons. It explicitly names the two primary actions that precipitate the total collapse and horrific end of those who commit evil. That they denied the signs of Allah and used to mock them. The first, denied the signs of Allah, is the intellectual and spiritual crime. They denied the Jait signs of Allah, which encompass the verses of the revealed scripture, the clear proofs presented by the messengers, and the countless manifestations of divine power and artistry in the universe and the self. They looked at the truth and, despite the clarity, intellectually rejected it. This denial is not merely a philosophical disagreement. It is an active rejection of the reality upon which the cosmos is built. The second, and used to mock them, wakayan, biyostazian, is the ethical and societal crime. This mocking transformed their internal disbelief into an external, contemptuous act of social hostility. They used their disbelief to ridicule the believers and scoff at the divine warnings, thereby creating an environment of spiritual arrogance and oppression. It is this combination, the denial of truth and the contempt for the sacred, that seals their fate. The terrible end of the mighty nations was not because they lost a battle or suffered an economic downturn. Their destruction was an existential outcome of their combined spiritual arrogance and moral dissolution. This verse serves as a crucial warning. The path to self-destruction begins with the intellectual denial of the truth of Allah's signs and is cemented by the public act of mockery towards the sacred, thus illustrating that every moral and spiritual deviation will inevitably result in a catastrophic societal collapse. Hadith. This section of Surah Ar-Rum focuses intensely on the dangers of heedlessness, Ghaflah, the excessive focus on the hereafter appearance of the world, and the resultant spiritual blindness to the hereafter. The true life is the internal, contemplative life, which allows the believer to see the spiritual reality underlying the material form. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, taught, "Be in the world as if you were a stranger or a traveler." Sahih al-Bukhari, 6416, the Book of Softening of the Heart. This profound teaching provides the perfect spiritual antidote to the heedlessness condemned in chapter 9, Sabernash, 30 verse 7. The command to be a stranger, Garkab, Babir Sable, is an instruction on the proper spiritual comportment towards the dunya. A stranger in a land does not settle down, does not invest all his wealth or affection, and does not mistake the temporary dwelling for his true home. Similarly, a traveler only carries the bare necessities for the journey, with his mind focused resolutely on the destination. This spiritual posture directly counters the one described in the Quran, those who know only the outer appearance of the life of the world. The traveler knows the here is a tool for transit, not a place for permanent residence. This hadith, therefore, is the practical Sufi path to avoiding Ghaflah. It means engaging with the world with detachment zood, using its resources without being consumed by its seductive glitter, and ensuring that the heart remains fixed on the unfailing promise and the inevitable meeting with the Lord in the hereafter. It is a continuous internal act of purifying intention, ensuring that all actions are for the sake of Allah, transforming worldly activities from a source of heedlessness into a means of profound spiritual remembrance. Let us now supplicate, drawing from the profound lessons of these verses, asking Allah to grant us a deeper understanding and to guide our every step. O Allah Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, pierce the veil of heedlessness, Ghaflah, from our hearts, and grant us the divine ilm to see beyond the outer appearance of the life of the world to the reality of your eternal purpose. Illuminate our souls so that we may fully comprehend that the universe is created with truth and for a fixed term, and that the power of all human empires is utterly subservient to the authority of your single command. Inspire us to reflect upon our own inner beings in the ruins of past civilizations, so that we may truly grasp the terror of the day of meeting and the devastating consequences of denying your magnificent signs. Preserve us, O Lord, from the twin calamities of denial and mockery towards your sacred truth, and make our tongues and actions testaments to your oneness and your absolute justice. Let our journey through this temporal life be that of a humble and purposeful traveler, carrying only the necessities, with our gaze fixed unwaveringly upon the promised reward and the glorious countenance of the Beloved. We seek your refuge from becoming among those who wrong themselves by rejecting the clear proofs. And we implore you to make us inherit the sublime success of those who are mindful of the hereafter. May Allah illuminate your heart and mind with the light of this divine ilm. May He make your channel a beacon of guidance for all who seek spiritual clarity and truth. May your efforts be a source of immense reward, and may you be granted the highest stations of paradise. May the peace and blessings of Allah always be upon you and your loved ones. May He grant you unwavering steadfastness on the path of truth, and may your work be a testament to His magnificent names, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. Ameen.